When we talk about lost knowledge, we imagine fire, burning libraries, smoke rising into the sky. But the greatest loss of knowledge in history didn't burn. It disappeared. Long before Rome, long before modern states, the Achaemenid Persian Empire ruled the ancient world. From the Indus Valley to the Mediterranean, it governed millions of people, speaking dozens of languages. At its peak, it was the largest empire the world had ever seen, a marvel of engineering, administration, and military might. It controlled vast territories, diverse cultures, and complex economies. And it did all of this without a single famous library. Think about it. We have the Library of Alexandria, a symbol of knowledge for the Hellenistic world. We have Roman libraries, centers of learning and philosophy. But Persia? For an empire that lasted over 2 centuries and defined the course of history, there is a conspicuous silence. We have grand palaces, intricate reliefs, and the tombs of kings. But we have no grand repository of books, no central archive celebrated in ancient texts. Why? The answer isn't that they didn't value knowledge. It's that they understood its power and its danger in a way we've forgotten. A single centralized library sounds powerful, a monument to an empire's intellect. But for Persia, it would have been a catastrophic weakness. Imagine concentrating all the administrative records, all the legal codes, all the tax rolls, and all the military logistics of an empire spanning 3 continents into one building in one city. It would have been a beacon of knowledge, but also a target. For a rebellious governor, a rival power, or an internal faction, destroying that single archive would be like severing the empire's brain. Destroy the records, and the empire collapses into chaos. The Persians were masters of control and stability. They would never make such a fundamental error. Instead, Persia chose a quieter, more resilient, and far more revolutionary system. It was a system built not on stone shelves, but on distribution and movement. A library that was everywhere, and therefore nowhere. The knowledge of the Achaemenid Empire wasn't meant to impress philosophers or to be debated in public forums. It was practical, it was functional, and it was the lifeblood that kept the empire running. The thousands of clay tablets we've unearthed from Persepolis give us a glimpse into this system. They aren't epic poems or philosophical treatises. They're wage lists, ration records, and travel permits. They record who worked on the great palaces, who traveled along the empire's roads, and who was paid for their labor. This was knowledge as control. But these tablets also hint at something much larger, something missing. They reference other documents, larger records on perishable materials, like parchment or papyrus, which no longer exist. The clay tablets were the daily receipts, but the full ledgers, the master copies, have vanished into time. So if the knowledge wasn't stored in a central library, where was it? The true libraries of Persia were people, a highly trained class of scribes, literate in multiple languages and scripts, were the empire's living hard drives. These scribes moved with officials, with governors, with generals. They were embedded in every level of the administration, from the local tax collector to the satrap's court. Knowledge wasn't static, stored on shelves waiting to be consulted. It was dynamic. It traveled. A decree issued by the king in Susa would be copied, translated, and carried by scribes to the farthest corners of the empire. The memory of the state wasn't in a building. It was in the hands and minds of these administrators, moving constantly across the vast Persian landscape. This mobile system of knowledge was powered by one of the wonders of the ancient world, the Royal Road. This wasn't just a road for armies and merchants. It was an information superhighway. A network of stations, spaced roughly a day's ride apart, allowed messengers to travel with incredible speed. A message could cross the continent, from the shores of the Aegean to the heart of Persia, in a matter of days, a journey that would take a normal traveler months. This network ensured that information flowed constantly. Records were copied, updated, redistributed, and replaced. A local archive in Egypt could be cross-referenced with a central directive from Babylon. This decentralized, redundant system was incredibly robust. Losing one set of records in one city was an inconvenience, not a catastrophe, because copies existed elsewhere, constantly being updated. This brings us to the great irony. The very system that made the Persian Empire so resilient is the reason why so little of its knowledge remains. There was no single point of failure, but there was also no single point of preservation. When the empire began to weaken, when central authority faltered, the system began to break down. Scribes and administrators fled their posts. The constant copying and updating of records ceased. Without a central repository to protect, the documents were simply abandoned. They were reused as scrap, left to decay in damp storerooms, or simply lost to time. Because no single building held the empire's memory, nothing significant survived intact. The library wasn't burned. It just dissolved. Traditionally, Alexander the Great is blamed for the destruction of Persian knowledge. The burning of Persepolis is often cited as a symbolic act of cultural vandalism, wiping out the accumulated wisdom of the Achaemenids. And while the destruction of Persepolis was a tragedy, the truth is more complex. By the time Alexander arrived, the intricate administrative system that preserved and distributed Persian knowledge was already collapsing. The empire was fragmenting from within. Alexander didn't destroy a library. He arrived at the scene of its slow, silent disappearance. The fire was a dramatic final act, but the story of loss had begun long before. So what, exactly, did we lose? We lost more than just administrative records. We lost the legal systems that successfully governed one of the most diverse populations in history. We lost detailed economic data spanning 3 continents for over 200 years. And perhaps most tragically, we lost the vast scientific knowledge the Persians inherited and curated from older civilizations like Babylon, and Elam knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and medicine that was refined and used to run their empire. We have only fragments, hints in Greek and later sources of the intellectual world that vanished. The greatest libraries in history didn't all burn. Some simply vanished, not with a bang, but with a whisper. They disappeared because they were never meant to be permanent monuments. They were living, breathing systems, and when the empire that sustained them died, they died with it. They were never meant to be seen by us, and in the end, they succeeded. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy digging into the rare parts of history that you won't find in most textbooks, consider subscribing for more stories like this. We'd love to have you with us.